I, Brian Hines, the Last Angry Geek, and the love child of the Duchess of Monte Cristo and the Earl of Sandwich, do write this document to declare my vengeance on Bennigan's, the retail restaurant chain that has stolen my legacy. For too long, the Monte Cristo sandwich has been overcooked in a bland, tasteless batter and...
No, that's stupid.
I do declare vengeance on the nostalgia critic for leading Channel Awesome on a quest that led to the deaths of my friends and fellow obstacles during suburban nights. Here we were, trying to kill you, and you had to go and kill us. And you know what? Chuck Jaffa still owes me for 3 weeks back pay, and I want to know who's going to cover that. I mean, for God's sakes, you try to make a living as a sword-wielding psychopath in a black cloak.
Not if I want to be in year 4.
I declare vengeance on the Marvel Comics miniseries Vengeance. It had nothing to do with the classic crossover The Acts of Vengeance, and indeed was overwritten, confusing, and had nothing at all to do with revenge. I shall expose your strange brand of incompetence on this episode of Comic Book Issues.
It's weak, but it's all I've got. It's hard to declare vengeance on something when you have no strong opinions one way or the other. Oh!
Enjoy the show.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Comic Book Issues. I'm your host, the Last Angry Geek. Once upon a time, there was a writer with great potential named Joe Casey. So impressed were the powers that be with Mr. Casey that they let him write one of their premier titles, Uncanny X-Men, where he did such things as create a mutant prostitute named Stacy X, and... well, that was pretty much it. Eventually, Mr. Casey left this plum assignment and wrote where he could. He toiled in such places as Image Comics and Dynamite before eventually returning to Marvel, where he wrote a miniseries called The Last Defenders and took part in Marvel's Dark Reign event with another miniseries called Zodiac. But what the powers that be didn't know was that Mr. Casey had gone mad, and that The Last Defenders and Zodiac would pay off in one final miniseries, and with that, Joe Casey would have 6 issues of vengeance!
Vengeance opens up 3 months ago with an old man watching the Avengers on television and deciding to act. Cut to the present day and a nightclub where Stacy X, mutant prostitute, although last time we saw her she'd been depowered, is nightclubbing with another couple under the watchful eyes of a gray-haired man in a suit. We then cut to 1944 and the Red Skulls taking orders from Adolf Hitler to investigate a Russian eugenics program and wipe it out. Cut back to present-day Nevada.
Oh God. 5 pages in, we've already had 4 locations and 2 flashbacks? I'm getting a little motion sick, but I'll be okay. You go on ahead.
We see a group of teen hackers led by ex-X-Men and old New Warriors, Angel and Beak, providing info to one Miss America Chavez, who then defies gravity and tempts fate by jumping down a nuclear tower while wearing a costume that would put Gaga to shame. They lead her to a cell in the abandoned structure containing a black and white boy. Literally.
Damn Star Trek cosplayers, always passing out due to background radiation.
Chavez takes the boy, who begins muttering about imbalance. Cut back to Stacy's three-way, which is then interrupted by Magneto, who's arrived to shame them, apparently. He's unhappy that Stacy is using her mutant talents for something so trivial as sex. The young man pulls a gun. He shoots Magneto, and the bullet robs him of his powers. The boy, calling himself the Ultimate Nullifier, gloats, only to get choked out by the Master of Magnetism. They start fighting as Stacy and her celebrity du jour run off. With the mutant gone, Magneto relents, and the Nullifier wonders if Magneto really has turned over a new leaf. Mags leaves, and the Nullifier is shown texting with Miss America Chavez. In NYC, Kyle Richmond, the now retired Nighthawk, meets with Mr. Fritch, an ex-SHIELD agent. Fritch tells him that someone has stolen state secrets and asks him and the Last Defenders to track him down. We find out that Miss America, Nullifier, Beak, and Angel are members of the new Teen Brigade, an organization working without recognition to aid the heroes of the world in maintaining peace. The mysterious boy flashes across the various players in this story before muttering that the Brock and Hood have come for him, much to Chavez's concern. Cutting back to 1944, the Red Skull disintegrates one of the scientists behind the eugenics program. Chavez gets into a fight with the Brackenhood, strange demons who eventually back off. We then cut to the Masters of Evil, introduced in Dark Reign as enemies of the Young Avengers. Apparently someone decided they were too interesting and got rid of all but the two most boring Masters, Egghead, an amnesiac android, and generic gun guy, the Executioner. These two are buying a new headquarters that was last seen being used by Joe Casey's Zodiac in his self-titled miniseries.
Trust me, you won't need to remember any of this. Oh, wondering where the hell Stacy and Magneto are? Keep wondering, they left this miniseries faster than creators from the DCNU.
We're introduced to the new members of the Masters of Evil, Radioactive Kid, Black Knight, and Mako. The Masters are now refocused on being evil in a world that has far too much gray in its black and white. Speaking of which, the child meets the rest of the brigade but is unable to tell them much about himself as the brigade's support packs up to relocate to Chicago. Kyle Richmond is advising the Last Defenders, the new Nighthawk, his protege Joaquin, She-Hulk, Damien Hellstorm, the son of Satan, and Atlantean warlord Krang, that the stolen S.H.I.E.L.D. info was about extremely dangerous, unexplained phenomenon. They decide to start with who's leaking the info as Damien lets them know that he senses a malevolent force is trying to invade our dimension. We follow the Masters into a secret vault. They found the corpse of Bullseye, murdered by Matt Murdock in the hand during the Shadowlands event. Some smoke and explosions foil whatever plans they had for the body as Lady Bullseye arrives. Lady B makes short work of the Masters before paying respect to Bullseye. Mako makes the mistake of sneaking up behind a sword-wielding ninja and gets decapitated. She tells the Masters they're not on the Kingpin's shit list, but warns them away. They smartly leave as she decides to get up to some nauseating business with Bullseye's corpse. Back with the Nullifier, the boy begins to understand he is an incarnation of the cosmic deity, the In-Betweener, a representation of balance in all things, and that some great destiny is at hand. He takes Angel, Beak, and Nullifier on a trip through his mind, explaining the Brackenhood were demons he tried to absorb, while we see that Chavez got a touch of his power and is flying around to distract the demons from her friends. The Brackenhood eventually broke free, shattering the In-Betweener until only this new version was left. They hunt him down for vengeance, but his death would throw the universe into chaos. We finally return to the old man from issue 1, Agent Larry Young, who is in fact the information thief S.H.I.E.L.D.'s been hunting. He's confronted by Nighthawk and Kyle, who know that his real name is Jack Truman. Cut back to the Red Skull. He's preparing to quietly exterminate the Russian supermen. In the present, the demons overwhelm Miss America as the Last Defenders arrive to make the save. Beak and Angel arrive at the headquarters of Dr. Octopus and warn him that he's being targeted. Just as the young Masters are about to storm his headquarters, it blows up, and Doc Ock's compatriots, the Sinister Six, attack the other young Masters. Nullifier jumps Electro and kicks his butt, just as Egghead phases up through the roof.
Ugh, my god, this is disjointed. Can you imagine if everything was written like this comic book? The Last Angry Geek introduced himself and set up the episode. Just then, Batman was attacked by Cloak Number 1. Meanwhile, Herlido from True Internet Story made a sandwich and wondered when his unemployment would kick in.
As Nullifier defeats Egghead and then saves the Black Knight from the Sandman, Beak and Angel explain they're trying to protect Otto because the universe somehow requires him alive. Black Knight swats Nullifier with her blade before he dodges the Executioner's bullets, but he does receive a face full of radiation from Radioactive Kid. Nullifier shoots the kid, rendering him normal, and letting Chavez swoop in and save his burned ass. Back at their headquarters, the Masters descend into bickering over their latest failure. The Executioner mentions they have an anonymous backer providing them with their intel, and they decide to recruit another young Master, Loki. Back in 1944, the Red Skull reflects on the service he's done the world with this Superman genocide. Back in the present at a bar with Hammond and Nighthawk, Truman admits he used to be Agent 18 and was tasked with taking down the mutant Cable. He eventually had his mind placed in a cyborg war machine, but switched it out with Agent Young's mind. Young trapped in a broken-down cyborg, and Truman in a much older body. He admits he's been funneling info in an attempt to clean up certain problems. Back with Nullifier, he's on the dance floor at another club and tracks down the Black Knight. After a little flirting, she takes him back to her place. Meanwhile, the other young Masters track down Loki at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Loki, now reincarnated as a child after the events of Siege, begins to talk with the Masters when Miss America literally drops in. The Masters attack the Bulletproof Beauty and she squashes them. Loki decides to summon a goat the size of a Sherman tank to squash her. She mentions it wasn't supposed to be like this, and we get a flashback of her being told by the In-Betweener that Loki should not be very dangerous. She beats the goat, but gets sucked into a miniature idol that the young god has been carrying. Loki turns down the Master's offer of enrollment and reveals Chavez is now in another dimension. Sensing things have gone awry, The In-Betweener fades out, leaving behind a seriously freaked out Angel and Beak.
And these are characters created by Grant Morrison. It takes some serious shit to freak them out.
Chavez encounters shades of people who visited this dimension, the home of Tyboro, the spirit of decay. Miss America takes on the Bracken Hood with the helps of the spirits, only for Tyboro to burn the demons away. Basking in afterglow, Black Knight offers to show Nullifier something, and as they argue their respective worldviews as hero and villain, she shows him a dossier containing the classified truth about the Russian supermen. That the Allies knew about it, but covered it up in light of the Cold War. They couldn't appear to endorse the Red Skull's actions, but secretly approved of his elimination of a race of Russian supermen. However, Nullifier accepts that there's a lot of gray areas out there, and the Teen Brigade is making honest choices and working on running the world one day correctly. Tyboro, meanwhile, realizes Chavez is alive and intelligent, unlike the Shades and Demons, and he focuses his attacks on her, just as the In-Betweener arrives at the Last Defender's headquarters. He calls on them to defend a noble person, and just like that, She-Hulk and Hellstorm ride off with the kid. Chavez is on the ropes when the Defenders arrive to save the day. Black Knight has decided her particular set of issues don't jibe with the other Masters, and opens their files to Nullifier before leaving. The fight with Tyboro seems endless as he feeds off their conflict, until Miss America launches herself human bullet style through his eye, causing his essence to pour out of him.
He fell victim to his one weakness, being shot through the eye. How ironic.
She-Hulk congratulates Chavez, who then blows them off despite their having come to rescue her. Nullifier returns to tell the Teen Brigade that the Master's next target is the Royal Ball in Latveria, home of Dr. Doom. It's then Agent Truman arrives and congratulates them on their initiative. The Teen Brigade are the ones he was funneling S.H.I.E.L.D. intelligence to. As those Defenders and Teen Brigade members still in our dimension rush to protect Latveria, we see Dr. Doom, no, not that Dr. Doom, the other Dr. Doom, planning a party. You see, while this story was going on, Doc Doom was busy in the book FF, and it's revealed his adopted son and fellow armor-wearing psycho, Kristoff, is ruling in his place. He's throwing a party to turn public support towards Doom's reign. As Truman and Nullifier sneak into the country, the Masters set off bombs across the river. Executioner then hits the streets, killing everyone he sees. Truman grabs a jeep and runs over a radioactive kid, while Egghead attacks Kristoff on his flying observation platform. Nighthawk attacks the android, as Executioner and Nullifier face off over Kristoff's life. The In-Betweener interrupts the Latvian-Mexican standoff, with his sudden arrival drawing out hordes of the Bracken Hood. As hero fights villain and demons ravage the countryside, the remaining Defenders and Chavez return to this dimension and join in on the fight as the Executioner targets the In-Betweener. However, Hellstorm runs him over in his chariot.
Number of plot threads that make sense? 0. Number of one-off characters that Casey created who return in this book? Too many to count. Number of villains who get run over by conveyances in issue 6? 2. Knowing I paid $23.94 to review this series? Priceless.
Nullifier wonders what will happen when he shoots the powerless Executioner with his power-removing bullet. But the In-Betweener calls out for him to stop. Nothing can truly be changed by murdering your enemies. Good and evil need each other. With that, the Nullifier simply cold-cocks the Executioner, and then, pulling out a second gun, shoots both sides of the In-Betweener. This sends the kid into a series of existential events that puts the ending of 2001 to shame as he tries to find balance within himself. Kristoff decides to hold the Executioner as his prisoner for the bombings, as the Defenders realize Truman and the Teen Brigade are gone. Back at Master's headquarters, Egghead, the last free member, returns, only to be contacted by the mysterious villain Zodiac. He was the Master's sponsor, and was looking for one to rise above the crop and be his new apprentice.
Egghead is no more. Rise, my apprentice. Darth Albumin. God, that name sucks.
The now restored In-Betweener appears to Nullifier in a dream and tells him to revel in his role riding the edge of good and evil. Nullifier wakes up and seems more than ready for action.
I would be remiss if I didn't point out the final page of issue 6. It's not part of the story per se, but it does put a lot of what happened into perspective.
The book's editor, Tom Brennan, explains that Marvel Comics had 6 paintings of villains done by Gabriel Del Otto and the problem of nowhere to put them. He then asks Joe Casey to write a story featuring all 6 villains. Vengeance was the result.
Okay, are you telling me the origin of this 6-issue miniseries was simply you needed something to wrap your covers around? Rather than parceling them out as variants, which Marvel can't seem to get enough of these days, you use them as an excuse to put out this miniseries? Are you fucking kidding me? That has to be the stupidest reason to put out a book I've ever heard! You want a Last Angry Geek? I'll give you a Last Angry Geek. This kind of lazy shit pisses me off! I'll say it till the day I die. Story, not gimmicks. This is like J.K. Rowling saying she put out 7 volumes of Harry Potter because some jelly bean company needed to move its earwax and vomit-flavored beans. Never again, Marvel! You are on probation. Do you hear me? Never again. Now, as much as I'd like to point the finger of blame at Marvel, I have to point it at Joe Casey, who really dropped the ball in a big way for what could have been an exciting, thought-provoking miniseries. Marvel handed him a big pile of steaming crap, but he ran with it.
The biggest problem is that this miniseries was meant to tell a story that uses all 6 of these cover villains, but since it's set in current continuity, the Red Skull is dead, Magneto's a hero, Loki's a child, etc., it makes using these villains extremely difficult. On top of that, Joe Casey doesn't make them his primary focus, they're just tacked on to the Masters vs. Teen Brigade plot. Also, his use of Stacy X, Agent 18, The Last Defenders, and Zodiac make this some sort of weird trip through his Marvel writing backlog. The problem is he's never been an extremely popular writer, and most people picking this book up would be lost. Special points go to Marvel for just not caring, because they launched a new Defenders series as this mini was still going on. How can they be the last Defenders when there's a whole new batch being heavily promoted? That's not to say everything is a mess, but the whole Red Skull plot goes nowhere. It's just shown to be a cover-up to convince Nullifier that the good guys in the USA are capable of doing bad things. Gee, a government with good intentions taking a moral shortcut? If Nullifier didn't realize we live in a world capable of this, then he must be an alien. In fact, we never get an origin for Nullifier or Miss America. On top of that, I felt that Casey chose 2 of the least interesting young Masters of Evil for this book, though the new recruits make up for it a little bit. The big problem with the good elements here are the pages that could have been given to those interesting characters are instead eaten up by the Red Skull and Last Defenders plots, which again feel very tacked on. I really was jazzed after reading the first issue, but later issues just became more and more random. I did like the art by Nick Dragotta. He has his own unique style, always a good thing, and manages to draw the fight scenes, trippy interdimensional moments, and flashbacks with an energy that comes across very well.
Honestly, it seems like Joe Casey used the premise of writing a story around these 6 villains as an excuse to tell the Teen Brigade's tale. That in and of itself is a good story, it's just buried under all this other crap and not allowed to properly develop. In the end, we get a disjointed tale that goes in every direction at once but never makes any progress. The art is good, and there's about a third of a decent story there, just a complete lack of motivation. I give the miniseries Vengeance 1 out of 5 stars. Also, wasn't it strange for a book called Vengeance that nobody in it actually wanted, revenge? Well, I guess the demons wanted vengeance on the In-Betweener for trapping them, but they were established as being mindless, so it couldn't be revenge, it was just focused rage. And this miniseries has taught me a lot about focused rage. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to read it anymore. Because it's a miniseries and it's over. I'm the Last Angry Geek, and I'll see you next time here on Comic Book Issues.